Good morning and welcome to Essential Ingredients. I am so pleased to introduce you today to Jessica Kwong from Jack and Friends Jerky. She's an entrepreneur that is focused on building a plant-based jerky, which I'm super excited to learn more about. I also have Yvette here today who is with Next Gen Chef and just super excited to learn more about this. And she's been with me. You will have heard her and seen her on a couple of other podcasts that we've had, mostly based on plant-based initiatives. And she continues to research and innovate in this movement. And I've asked her to join me here today so that she can be part of the conversation, because she's always with me as I'm looking to change the future of food and bring on new guests and bring the information to the forefront and craft these talks. And so it's important for her to join us. And we want to learn from you, and we want to hear a little bit about your story and your journey and what you're hoping to build. So Jessica, with that, I'd love to hear a little bit about you, if you'd introduce yourself and share a little bit about your story.
Yeah, of course. Thanks so much for having me. So excited to be here and kind of share my background and how I got started with Jack and Friends. But like Justine mentioned, I'm the founder of Jack and Friends, a company creating plant-based jerky for any lifestyle. And my background with food is a little bit different from most food entrepreneurs. I actually have a background in food science, so very technical, and basically went this crazy route from going straight out of college into the world of entrepreneurship.
Wow, that's amazing. And that, it honestly takes a lot of guts to do that, right? Because usually you get out of college and everybody's like, I need a job, I need to have security, I need to pay rent, I need to do all these things. I need to get my foundation so that I have the skills to be able to do that. And it's remarkable to be able to have the vision also, to be able to build a company right out of college. So I give you a lot of credit for that, to be able to see forward and have that vision and be able to take that vision and build your product from concept to purpose. So awesome.
Thank you.
A little bit about this, I mean, obviously you haven't been doing it that long, but can you tell us a little bit about your impact career and how you became involved in the space of plant-based food specifically?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, I went to Cornell for 4 years, got my bachelor's in food science. So I was already, very involved in the food industry through product development competitions on campus, as well as interning for actual food companies, doing R&D and development for their existing product lines or upcoming product lines. So during those 4 years, I kind of gained a lot of insight and experience from both the technical side through, the curriculum, as well as the industry side through these like extracurricular activities. So when it came time to graduate, I had already developed this plant-based jerky concept for a previous competition, and really felt that, in looking at the plant-based market and what I wanted to, do with my career and have an impact on the food industry, I felt that I could really take it to the next level and create this product that was very viable in the marketplace, but also embodied inclusivity as a platform, which I really wanted to stand behind. So, the whole mission behind Jack and Friends is that we're creating food for anyone in any lifestyle. And I really wanted a brand that embodied, those kinds of ideals. So senior year, I took the very non-traditional route and turned down the job offer from the multi-billion-dollar snack company and decided to start Jack and Friends for those reasons.
Okay, you got to tell me, what did your parents say?
It was a mixed bag, I'm not gonna lie. There was like a 2-week period where I had to decide on the return offer for this multi-million-dollar snack company. And that was, not gonna lie, super stressful. Had a lot of input from my parents, friends, colleagues, etc. My dad is also an entrepreneur, so he was definitely more for the idea, and said, you're young, take the risk now, this is such a great idea, and if it crashes and burns, like worst comes to worst, you'll come out of it knowing so much more. So he was kind of in that corner, and my mom was definitely a little bit more on the flip side, where she was working at the same company for like 20 plus years, so she really liked job security and like a more safe route. So she was very worried about turning down stable income and benefits at a very established company to basically just launch a startup straight out of college. But, you know, they're both very supportive in the end. And I think that's why I'm here.
So what was the one thing that enabled you to take that leap of faith to say, okay, this is it. I'm going off on my own?
Yeah, I think it was kind of a multitude of factors, but it really boiled down to I was confident that, you know, I had the abilities to make this work, like take this concept, make it into an actual product and make it into an actual company. And I think I had the reassurance in the back of my mind that, you know, food industry is not going anywhere. Everyone needs to eat. So like I said, worst comes to worst, if for some reason Jack and Fringe like totally bombed, there was always an industry position to go back to. And I didn't want the fear of failure to really hold me back on, you know, taking this leap of faith.
Right. Well, I think that it was very brave, and I give you a lot of props for that. And it's certainly an honor to be able to interview you now before you're so big, you know, getting a cue to get you on our podcast. So, right. But, you know, it's interesting because I've met a few entrepreneurs out of Cornell in the food space. I think there's one called Jinka, which is a, right, I don't know if you heard of it. It's a vegan tuna. Have you heard of them? They're out of the Bay Area, right? She also went to Cornell. And I remember I went to Ithaca for 1 year before I left. I'm sorry, I could not handle the cold. It snowed during the spring finals, and I abandoned ship. I abandoned ship after my airplane missed the runway when it was landing. I said, I'm out of here. And I transferred to American. But that being said, I remember there was a lot of food entrepreneurs when I was there. There was somebody that opened something called Dan's Cookies, and there were all these food innovators. And of course, they weren't based on they were not plant-based entrepreneurs back when I went to school, but they were food entrepreneurs building these food businesses, and they were selling them direct to the students. Was that something that you guys were doing back then when you were building these companies?
Yeah, I think like personally, I wasn't involved with, you know, creating an actual company on campus and, you know, selling direct to students. But I think what was great about the Cornell community, but also the Ithaca community at large too, was that even though it was somewhat isolated, just like in the middle of upstate New York, there was a real camaraderie between, you know, the city and the colleges on campus. Where there was a lot of development and entrepreneurship going on. I know a few companies that are still located there, like Ithaca Hummus, you know, Ithaca Beer Company, Emmy's Organics, I think, is in Ithaca as well. So there's a really nice, you know, entrepreneurship community around there. And Cornell specifically has a lot of resources for students that are looking to explore that route, you know, as a career as well. So there's a lot of opportunities just like in that Ithaca region.
Yeah, I remember that vaguely. It's a distant.
It probably got clouded out by your fear of the plane missing the runway.
Something like that. And I spent more time at the hot truck than anything else anyway. Do they still have that there?
They did when I was still there. I'm not sure if it moved at all in the past like 2.5 years, but yeah, it was definitely a staple.
Well, Yvette, just so you know, the hot truck came at 11 o'clock at night, I think. And it came outside some of the dorms, and they made like these hot pizza sandwiches, not healthy at all. But this was 20 years ago when I did this.
Have sentimental values, and those are important because we connect over food.
Anyway, I want to get back to learn, you know, to you know, talking to you a little bit more about your background in research and development and food science, and talk about why that's important for any food and beverage company today. And what was the moment when you were inspired to create your own company? And to take that leap. Can you share a little bit about that with us and our listeners today?
Yeah, definitely. And I think it perfectly ties into, you know, why I think food science and product development is so important, you know, in starting a food company, and like how I got started with that. Because I think especially within plant-based, even product innovation is so important. Like people want something new, they want something fresh. And now more than ever, they want it to be good for them or have some type of functionality. And I really think that's where, you know, R&D and food science comes in, where you're able to, you know, take this technical background and really apply it towards food so that you're creating a product that satisfies all your customer needs. And I think that's what inspired me to create my own food company with, a food science background. I have that technical knowledge, and I know, how to apply it to create an end product that, would be sold in the market. So, if I knew how to do that myself, and I, as a consumer myself, I know what product I want to see on the shelf, why not, start my own company and do it on my own? Just because, I think if someone has to do it, why not me?
Yeah, and I think food science is integral to it, right? I mean, there's so many different things that go into building a business, but coming from the food science background and understanding what goes into building that product from that angle,
Right.
I think is unique and gives you an advantage. I mean, having an expertise in something gives us all different advantages, and this just gives you that advantage. And I think that that's really important. Yvette, is there anything you want to participate in? I feel like that look on your
Yeah.
face it just sort of felt like you had something to say. So I just wanted to open up the conversation and include you
It's
in it.
infinite nodding. Thanks, Justine. Yeah, the piece of food science product development is so big in the space of plant-based today, and we're just so glad to see entrepreneurs like Jessica yourself being equipped with such integral skills. And then as a young startup, pushing the edge of innovation in the industry and possibly even influencing the multi-million-dollar snack company that made you an offer. We really need everyone on board to push the edge of innovation, and then small organizations like startups just have such flexibility, agility to achieve that. And then we can talk about jackfruit. I'm super interested because this ingredient has this natural mimicry of meat and the muscle texture. But then there's so much more that happens to it before it goes into the bag to create to become kind of like an analog of jerky that like consumers, I personally, I'm a huge fan of jerky, but now I'm kind of plant-based. So that's a problem for me. Like I always want to eat jerky, but there's just kind of like a lack of high quality jerky that replicates the same experience, so I don't have to make sacrifices.
Yeah, I think that's super interesting, and you touched upon a lot of the points that I was thinking about when I started Jack and Friends and when I was developing this plant-based jerky concept, because I think as the plant-based movement becomes more mainstream, and people are just looking to be healthier or more sustainable in general, there's a real need for plant-based products that mimic their traditional animal protein counterparts. And I think that's really where the industry or the category is heading. So with jackfruit specifically, I came across the ingredient, and like you said, it's so interesting, so versatile. It basically has like two different versions almost, where when it's ripe, it's like this bright yellow color, super sweet, has this very floral, tropical taste. But when it's young and green, which is what we use in our jerky, it's almost white in color and very neutral in flavor. So it absorbs all the flavor that you put into it in either like a recipe or a product, which was why it was so attractive to me as a food scientist, because it's basically a blank canvas for formulation, right? So with this jerky product, I really wanted to take the time and make sure that I was nailing all those sensory components for traditional jerky, so that the tear, the texture, the flavor that people are really looking for when they pick up like a beef or pork jerky product, I wanted it to be in my plant-based jerky. And that's why I decided to go with jackfruit and pea protein as the main ingredients, because with my food science background, I was able to formulate it in a way where it did have those attributes that I was looking for, while still being vegan, totally allergen free, good source of protein and fiber, no added sugar.
Right.
Great.
So there is the nutritional element and the culinary element.
And it goes hand in hand, which is perfect, right? Nutrition and it's just a perfect combination. So I think we're just going to take a short break and have an announcement from our sponsor. So if you guys would just pause for a moment, we'll be right back. want to thank today's sponsor, Next Gen Chef. Next Gen Chef feeds members with the knowledge and tools that they need to create concepts with purpose and succeed. If you're listening today, they are offering a 1-year subscription for any new founder that wants to participate at a special discounted rate. For more information, email team@nextgenchef.com. If you're interested in becoming a member or just a part of the community, email NextGenChef at team@nextgenchef.com. You can also follow them on Instagram at NextGenChef, as well as on LinkedIn and on Facebook. Thank you again, NextGen Chef, for making this podcast possible. Together, we can change the future of food. And I just wanted to follow up on that conversation that we were having. And I'm just curious, are you looking at expanding your product line with jackfruit to expand things outside of the jerky line, like chili or anything?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's the beauty of jackfruit and why I was so attracted to it. It's a very versatile ingredient. And that being said, I started with the jerky because I noticed that jackfruit wasn't really being utilized in the snack space. So I thought that was a great way to start, especially with people who are, just getting their feet wet with plant-based food. It's it's much more low commitment than, like going all in on like a full meal or just like changing your diet completely. So that was kind of the reasoning behind starting with the jerky. But, with Jack and Friends, Jack being from, jackfruit, our main ingredient, there's so much opportunity to expand it into different product lines that, do satisfy the meal function or, other snack categories and just, outside of jerky in general.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as you were talking about the texture, the mouthfeel, and the look of jackfruit, I was thinking of mycelium, which is another ingredient that some of the vegan jerky companies use. And they're also innovative. And I'm sure you have reasons why you pick jackfruit in particular. Maybe it's across the entire supply chain, it's more efficient, or it's more of a white space compared to other ingredients, or you just have like a personal resonance with jackfruit because jackfruit it's such a cute fruit.
Thank you. Yeah, I think definitely a combination of all of the above. Like you said, I think jackfruit as an ingredient definitely sparked my interest in the beginning, back even when I was a student. So I definitely wanted to continue developing it through that. And then as I learned more about it and continue playing with the ingredient, it just made sense to include it in this jerky concept, including, the whole naming system with Jack and Friends, Jack coming from jackfruit, but also from like a nutritional standpoint, it's, great source of fiber, super neutral in flavor, has a lot of vitamins and minerals, as well as from a sustainability standpoint too. It's a very hardy crop that's grown in South Asia and Southeast Asia. So kind of all those elements came together of why jackfruit became the star of, this product and this brand.
But who are the friends? So we know who jackfruit is, but who are the friends?
Yeah, so the whole naming system works is that, Jack comes from jackfruit, and then each friend is essentially a different flavor. So if you look at our plant-based jerky line, we have flavors like Jack and Tom and Jack and Barb. So Tom comes from tomato for the tomato and poblano pepper flavor, and then Barb is for barbecue for our sweet barbecue flavor. So that's kind of how the whole Jack and Friends system works. So every time we add a new friend, it's like an addition to our product line.
That's super fun. Did you come up with the branding yourself, or did you hire a whole branding team?
No, it was literally just me and I think my parents, like sitting around the kitchen table before I think I even graduated and before this whole product launch. I'm like, I need a great name for this product and this brand, and I want it to be able to be expandable. And I was like, I want to include like jackfruit in there, or like Jack and someone. I was like, maybe Jack and something, Jack and whatever. So we're like bouncing ideas back and forth. And I think it was my dad who was like, oh, how about like Jack and Friends or something? And then like each friend could be like a different jerky or something like that. I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. So I ran with it.
So you said your dad's an entrepreneur. Is he also in the food space?
No, no one I think in my family is in the food space outside of my cousin who also graduated with a degree in food science. Kind of weird coincidence there. But yeah, my parents are nowhere near the food space, so it was very, very new for me.
But marketing, they're in marketing?
No, my dad is in the like real estate business.
I was
and
only
my
kidding.
mom,
I was kidding because
yeah,
you guys came up with the concept, the branding, the marketing, all at the table. I figured you had to have a team so
yeah.
that everybody in your family had a role that fit on your advisory board to fill all those places.
He's a de facto marketer.
Awesome. Well, that's super exciting. So it seems like we're coming to a tipping point for plant-based food. I know I'm from New York. We were talking about plant-based food. I think there for a while where Pure Food and Wine was quite popular before it closed, and Lucky Duck and some other places. And I moved out to California thinking California would be ahead of us, where in actuality, I think they're quite behind New York in many ways on this. And when I was in New York, we had just a few restaurants, and now I think they've got hundreds of plant-forward restaurants and plant-based restaurants. And California seems to be coming up. But California seems to have all the fruits and vegetables you could imagine, right? Because they all grow here and we have access to them, and it's very forward in that kind of way. I guess what I'm curious to hear your thoughts are, is that as we're coming to this tipping point of the plant-based food industry, how do you see that's going to impact the demand, both from the consumer's perspective as well as a business? Do you feel like there's going to be more and more businesses that are going to be standing out in this space? And do you feel like there's going to be many more customers demanding this? What do you see the trajectory for it? And how do
Yeah,
you
I
think you
think
can stand out in the space?
I think that's like both questions really important, because I think everyone can agree just from the data and like looking at projections and industry experts that plant-based food is not going anywhere. It's only going to grow from here on out, both in the restaurant side that you mentioned, but also in the CPG side, where people are really looking for plant-based options for like health, sustainability, and a variety of other reasons. So I think with that, consumer demand is going to continue to grow, and with that, companies will be more interested in either creating plant-based versions of their existing products, or just new plant-based companies popping up every day. And I think we're starting to see that in the industry. Even if just like scrolling on LinkedIn or reading food news, there's always a lot. There's a lot more news on plant-based initiatives going on right now, which is awesome and super great. So I think as the industry continues to grow and it becomes more mainstream, where people are becoming more plant-based forward in their diet, or adopting like flexitarian lifestyles, that consumers will naturally want more product innovation. So I think there's going to be a huge push for creating plant-based products that better mimic their traditional animal protein counterparts. So the companies that can rise above that increase in competition, I think, will be really forward in their innovation and their product quality that you guys mentioned previously. So that's definitely my number one area where you can stand out in the competition. And I think two other areas that will probably come into play are the branding or messaging. So what do you want your brand to stand for, and like who are you targeting as your consumer? And I think for Jack Events personally, that was something I wanted to develop in an early stage, where our branding and messaging is all about inclusivity. That's our platform. We're creating food for anyone in any lifestyle. And I think the more that brands can convey that to their consumers, especially in the plant-based space, the more that they'll stand out from kind of the increasing number of people that are trying to attack the same category. And I think from a third perspective, probably integrability, I guess, like as a way to sum it up. So going back to that point where people are looking for products that are good counterparts or good alternatives for the traditional like meat products, finding out a way to integrate it into the lifestyles of people that are not necessarily vegan or completely plant-based, but people that are just interested in plant-based foods or want to supplement part of their diet or are flexitarians. I think that will be a really important area for companies to keep in mind as they continue to grow their, plant-based portfolio, or just like plant-based companies in general.
I think
Yeah, it
those are
sounds
great
really
tips.
mhm.
Those are really,
Sounds really exciting. Like sounds like there is innovation in terms of product assortment as well as the occasions where consumers can enjoy the product. Like you said, so you can enjoy Jack and Friends for any kind of occasion, and
Right.
that's your idea of inclusivity.
and I think it's great because I think while I am a meat eater and a fish eater and all those things, I would say that with education, which is one of the core pillars of Next Gen Chef, I've slowly been eating less and less meat. Not because I don't enjoy it, but because I understand the impact it has both on my body and on the planet. So I've chosen to eat more plant-based foods in a healthy way, because you can be a vegetarian and not be healthy, right? So I think it's about thinking about it in a healthy way and how to eat a healthy diet. Not about,
Right.
for me, it's not about being vegetarian, vegan, pescatarian, or plant forward. It's about, I mean, in some ways plant forward, but about being healthy and eating well for my body and for the planet. And including products and innovation like yours is really important to me. And I really like to support better for you brands. And I'd love to hear a little bit about the importance for you in that, because you've built a better for you brand. And for Next Gen Chef, it's really important for us because we want to support people to build better for you brands. We want people to be able to understand why you've built this brand so that they can make more informed choices as they build their brands and as they make their choices when they go to the store to choose an item off of the shelf.
Yeah, I think that's super important, like you said, and I'm definitely with you on, the whole aspect of choosing and adapting my lifestyle, my diet based off of health, and just like as I continue to educate myself, with certain ingredients or certain products. And I think that's where a lot of the consumer mindset is trending towards now too. I think people are a lot more interested in knowing where their food is coming from, how it affects their body and the planet, and just being educated more in general. So I think that really plays an important part of why better for you brands, or why better for you brands are so important, and why it's so important to take that education aspect into building a better for you brand, because consumers will look for that information now. It's kind of a no-brainer. So the more that you educate yourself as the producer of this product, the more that you can convey that to the consumer and explain to them, why this will be great for their body, great for the environment, etc. Which will not only help them buy your product, which is great as a company, but also satisfy their needs and the planet's needs.
Yeah, and make an informed choice. It's not just arbitrary. It's really making an informed choice, because the greatest challenge I see is that people don't know why to choose something. They don't know why one thing is better than the other. And the greatest gift we can give them is the power of understanding how to make that informed choice, which is why we were so pleased to be able to invite you on for our listeners here today, so they can better understand what jackfruit is. Why is it an important thing to understand that this is now a choice? Why this versus, regular jerky?
And as brands have such an important role in educating consumers in a nascent space like jackfruit, and even plant-based overall, it's at a critical stage where consumers would love and need to grow awareness of this product and their nutritional profile. And so we're sure that Jack and Friends and other jackfruit companies are spreading the message of how it's so fun and delicious and better for you. And I think it's once consumers know more about how this product is good for their bodies, they're going to vote with their dollars and buy more products. So what is your view? Justine touched a little bit on competition a little earlier. What is your view of competition/collaboration in this nascent space? Do you see it more as like a partnership, or you're like really rushing towards the competitive edge because it's interesting.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a little bit of both. I mean, you can't deny that there's competition, but the one thing I really like about kind of the food entrepreneur, food startup community is that it really does feel like a community. Like I cannot count the amount of times I've like cold emailed or like cold LinkedIn messaged someone, just asking to pick their brains on a topic that they have more experience than me in, or some arbitrary area that I'd like to learn more about because I read about them in an article and saw that it was really interesting. So I think this community is really welcoming, and people are very willing to pay it forward, which is great. There's not this this belief or there's not this belief that you can't be friends with other food entrepreneurs because it has to be competitive and cutthroat and everything like that, which is definitely not a space that I want to be in. At the same time, obviously, your products are competing on the shelf at some point, and there is a competitive landscape. So I think rather than being playing towards competition on like an emotional level, like founder to founder, or trying to take each other down, it's just really about trying to make your product stand out. And I think that's a healthier, that's a healthier way to approach competition, because then everyone is trying to be a better version of themselves or a better version of someone else, and it's just going to increase the quality of the product that consumers are purchasing, which is a win-win for everyone. And it kind of maintains that healthy level of competition of like, okay, where can I stand out with my product characteristics or my branding or some other area of my company. And I think that's the way that I approach my business, and a lot of the food entrepreneurs that I've met also follow that, those kinds of beliefs as well.
I think it comes down to taste, and it comes down to transparency, right? You want to know what's in the product, and you want it to taste good. And
exactly.
It's going to come down to which tastes best and which has, the best ingredients. And that's a win, because it's pushing each other to create the best product. And at the end of the day, competition, I don't look at it as a bad thing. It just means there's a greater demand.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think like competition will naturally drive innovation too, which is, circling back to that whole point that's been throughout this whole recording is, definitely a plus for everyone. So I definitely see healthy competition as a great thing in the food industry. And, I think with plant-based specifically, that'll only increase from here on out.
So Jessica, while you've been sitting at home for the last, God knows how many months already, I've lost in New York. You're in New York, right?
Yes, I am.
Are you in New York City?
I'm about half an hour outside Manhattan on Long Island.
On Long Island. Okay. So as you're sitting on Long Island in Nassau County?
Yes.
You can't be that much further, because then you wouldn't be 30 minutes out, right?
Yeah.
So sitting in Nassau County, in your house, are you putting together any interesting recipes, pandemic recipes with the jackfruit, or, since you're a food scientist, have you created any fun and inventive, innovative recipes that you're toying with that you want to share?
Definitely. I've definitely been on both sides of like the healthy and not healthy recipes during the pandemic, and different phases of like as the months pass by of, which is, the more prevalent type of recipe that I'm trying. Definitely went through that weird banana bread phase that everyone went through in like the beginning of the pandemic.
Oh, I think it was sourdough here in California.
Yeah, it was like banana bread, sourdough. It was just like yeast was sold out everywhere. I was partially to blame for that. But yeah, I've been definitely exploring a lot of different, cooking and baking and recipes in general. So using our own, Jack and Friends jerky in different functions, like tearing on top of salads or putting it in sandwiches as like a vegan BLT, different interesting, ideas like that, which our customers can also then replicate if they, so desire, as well as playing around with more traditional Chinese cooking, since I'm, come from a Chinese background, and seeing all the different, types of options, especially plant-based, that we can play around with there. So yeah, it's been interesting being holed up at home. Definitely not ideal, but the silver lining is that there's a bit more time or more opportunity to play around in the kitchen.
Right, that's true. So are you a big dim sum fan? I'm a big dim sum fan.
Yes, I am, and I'm so sad that like that experience, like in-person dining for dim sum, has been taken away.
So we used to go to a place in, oh my God, where is it? It was in Queens, in, starts with a J. What's the name of the area? It's not Astoria, Jackson. Oh my God.
Jackson Heights?
No, where in Queens did we go? They have all the Chinese restaurants.
Not Flushing.
In Flushing, in Flushing.
Oh, Flushing, okay.
In Flushing. And we used to go for dim sum there, and they'd come with their carts. They had these huge tables, and we'd sit upstairs, and I miss that. That was yummy.
Yeah, there's a lot of like.
You was, are you going to make dim sum with jackfruit?
You know, that's not.
That was where that question was going.
That could be a possibility. Definitely, we'll play around with that idea.
Because, you know, there's a big market for snacks, right? And Yvette can talk more about that. I mean, you're doing snacks, right? Like this is a snack, but the market for snacks, the vegan, the plant-forward snacks is huge. And dim sum with jackfruit in it, I could see it now in the freezer section, flash frozen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you're not sold. She's not sold on my idea. She's totally not sold. Yeah. Okay. All right. I was going to be your first customer. Okay. Well, in any case, so I know that, so that's awesome. So it sounds like you've been doing a lot of fun recipes, some healthy, some not so healthy, but is there any that you want to share with our audience that maybe can do at home themselves?
Yeah, I think like something really easy, especially if you want to either, use our jackfruit jerky or just jackfruit in general, is we have a flavor called Jack and Barb. It's a sweet barbecue flavor. It goes super well with like savory concepts. And a lot of our customers have actually been incorporating it onto pizza or sandwiches or other, rice bowls, things like that. So we want something super quick, but also super flavorful. We do all the work for you, basically. Just take that, pair it onto your salad, your rice bowl, pizza, anything that you already have, and it adds some really nice texture and a punch of flavor too.
Okay, and so what's your favorite Jack and?
Yeah, oh, that's hard. Oh my God, they're all three of them are my babies, so it's hard to choose a favorite. I'd probably say Jack and Barb is my favorite. I'm a sucker for barbecue flavors.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's probably my go-to, but don't tell Jack and Tom or Jack and Terry.
I won't, but I would love to tell our listeners how they might be able to get their hands on some of Jack and Friends, if that's possible.
Yeah, so you can find us online or in select retailers. Online is probably much easier these days. So jackandfriendsjerky.com. We have an online shop. You can order our jerky there and have it shipped straight to your door. And I think sorry, this might be edited out, but do you want me to include like a product code or something like that too?
Why would I say no to that?
Okay, yeah, we can definitely.
I would be stupid to say no to that.
Yeah, okay, so I'll like cut it here. But yeah, so yeah, you can find us at jackandfriendsjerky.com. All three of our flavors are available there. Order online and ship straight to your door. And especially for our podcast listeners today, you can use the code Essential Ingredients and get 10% off your first order. Oh
my God, I'm going to go order mine.
Yes, for
Yvette,
sure.
Are
definitely.
you going to go order yours? I'm going to go order hers too. Awesome. Jessica, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. It was so fun to get to learn a little bit about you, your journey, your products. And I hope our listeners enjoyed it. It was really inspirational and aspirational. And Yvette, as always, it's always fun to share the conversation with you. It always brings another dimension, and it always goes in new angles. And I love that. And I love sharing the space with you. So thank you both for joining me. And thank you to our listeners.
Yeah, thank you so much. So great to be here, and thank you both for hosting me.